Hello, Blitz fans of all ages, it's me, Plumcastle here, showing you guys how to play the Tiger 1. Now, before we jump into any of the gameplay, I would like to go over some of the important stats that the tank does have. Now, first of all, it has 1,500 hit points, which is very helpful when in cases where you might be outnumbered. It can really help you to live a lot longer than some other tanks could. As well, you have a very nice 240 meters of view range, which again is very good for tier 7 heavy tanks. Now, you do not have the most damage per minute for your AP round, sitting at just 2,118, but overall I would say it's still a very workable amount and you can definitely be effective even so. Now, you do have very good AP penetration at 203, making it so that you can penetrate most things, particularly lower tier vehicles. Now, you do not have the highest alpha ever at just 220, but what this tank lacks in alpha, it then makes up for in its reload of just 6.23 seconds. So what that means is if you do bounce or miss a shot, it's no biggie. You can just reload in about 6 seconds and you can shoot again. This tank is really good with its reload there, because what it allows you to do is to hold off the enemies so they can't really just push on you when you've got a reload, which is really cool. Now, this tank also sports a 7 degrees of gun depression, which, while it isn't the most in the world, is by no means a little amount either. It can work most positions very well. Now, the two strongest things about the Tiger 1 in my opinion would be, first of all, its top speed at 44 kilometers per hour, and as well the armor, which if we take a look at it right here, you can see it's very strong, particularly when you angle it up like that, and it really just bounces a lot of shells, again, particularly against lower tiers, but it can bounce some higher tier shells as well. Now, the turret is probably the strongest part of the armor as a whole, because one, you've got spaced armor as you can see, and as well it's almost impenetrable from the front, to be honest. Maybe a few higher tier vehicles running premium rounds, but for the most part you're basically impenetrable on the turret. But anyway, that's enough of these stats. Now let's move on to how to actually play the tank. Now, the first game here is on Faust, and I do feel that this game does a very good job of showing the tank in a side-scraping position. Honestly, I would say that side-scraping is probably what this tank is the best at. Again, you've got that great armor, and especially against lower tier vehicles, they will really struggle to penetrate you, and honestly, even some higher tier vehicles can struggle to pen you as well. I mean, it's just such a strong tank. Now, you can see here in the beginning, we're going to go ahead and push up a little bit aggressively, get one quick shot, and then you can see immediately after that, I go and do this whole this side scraping position here. And you can see we've already got it bounced, but what you may notice is that this position in particular is probably the best position you can be in, because not only are you side scraping like this, but you can see that the enemy is on the same plane as you, so that means you don't have to look up at them, don't have to look down at them. Your armor is as effective as possible, and you just shoot straight, and it makes everything just so much easier. And you can see, again, another bounce, and the IS-2 on the enemy team is actually going to end up having to shoot HE at me at one point just because he cannot pen me. Now, from the actual gameplay perspective, you can see I'm not actually getting a whole lot of shots off. I'm mostly distracting those three enemy tanks, two of which having high alpha, those being the KV-1S and the IS-2. Now, what that allows my team to do is all six of them can actually attack the flank all together, and really they're going to be meeting maybe four tanks on the enemy team, and they're definitely going to have the flank, and you can definitely see that in this game. They dominate the flank and then quickly move over to help me. You can see I go ahead and start to push a little bit aggressively here, because I know it is towards the end of the game, and my team is going to be able to support me. Now, I do push a little bit too aggressively, as you can see there, and now I have a decision, because I've got both the IS-2 and the KV-1S looking at me. Now, I was pretty certain that the KV-1S was going to shoot me, so I decided to push towards him, because I knew that if I did get hit by the KV-1S, I did not want the IS-2 to get a shot as well. Now, I did get lucky there. The KV-1S bounced, and then you can see that the IS-2 is then going to try to assist his teammate, but unfortunately, my team has already done everything that they need to. The IS-2 dies by my teammate, and then I, in turn, take out the KV-1S. Really quick but very strong game, showing that this tank can be very effective when it comes to a side scraping position. So now let's go over the hold down capabilities of this tank, but real quick I do want to show this quick replay here. Now, I just want to show this replay right here, more because of, it just shows one of the weaknesses of the Tiger 1. You can see there, I did get that shot off onto the housing, but I am in a very bad position because even though I do have 7 degrees of gun depression, you can see it just isn't quite enough to work this position, which means that the enemy both has a view of my lower plate and upper plate, so they're easily going to penetrate me, and as you can see there, I just don't have the gun depression required to get down at them. So that is probably the worst position for the Tiger 1, that being a hold down position where you are above your enemy, having to look down at them because it just exposes all of your weak spots. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how this tank does in a good hold down position. So the last replay that I have here is on New Bay, and again I feel this does a very good job of showing what the tank is capable in a hold down position. Now there are going to be 2 different types of hold down positioning that are very good in this tank, unlike the clips that you saw before. So firstly, in the beginning of the game you can see I'm going to this on ramp, but then what I do is actually I hug up against the left railing, and the reason I do this is it pushes the right railing as far away from my tank as possible, making it so that the enemy can literally just see my turret, and that's it, with maybe the slight exception of a tiny bit of my hull. And again, you can see there comes the reload, and we are able to permatrack this poor Tiger 2, who ends up dying very early in the game. Now you can see here I'm again basically on an even plane with the Tiger 2. I'm not really having to utilize all of my gun depression, which is exactly the kind of position you want. You don't want to have to use up all of the gun depression. Now here comes the second very good hold down position here, and it's when you are below the enemy. Now yes, you will need some gun depression, and again the 7 does come in handy, but the advantage here as opposed to the clip earlier is I'm below the enemy, so they really don't have much choice but to look at my turret, and they can't really penetrate me because they can't see either my upper or lower plate. Now you can see the enemy is pushing fairly aggressively onto my teammates down there, so I am trying to support them again while not overexposing myself too much. Now of course I do need to make a decision here, and I do have to push in, and I'm going to go ahead and help out the remaining teammates that are near our spawn. Now I do make a bit of a mistake there. I do push a little bit too aggressively, but thankfully I only get hit once, and then I make the wise decision to pull back. Now the Tiger 2 on my team does the same thing I did, except he doesn't do what I did and pull back. He just guns it, which is okay. He makes for a very good distraction, and what that allows me to do is another thing that this tank is very strong at, and that is peek-a-boom. So I can pull out, shoot, and then pull back, and then pull back a few seconds later, and then continue to get shots off without really exposing myself too much. Now I am focusing this chieftain for the moment, but I do notice that the Helsing is a low hit point tank, and then I go ahead and take him out, and then the Tiger 2 takes out the last remaining 1 hit point enemy, and then I can go in and finish off this chieftain. And as you can see here, we definitely have this game. It was a better game, not an ace or anything fancy like that, but it does a really good job of showing what this tank can do, both in hold down and peek-a-boom positions. But anyway, that is the Tiger 1. As you can see, a very strong tank when it comes to side scraping, some hold down positions, and peek-a-boom. And so with that, hope you all enjoyed, and as always, have fun, good luck, and happy tanking.